As we all know by now, Egypt has basically undergone two revolutions. The first one was to oust Hosni Mubarak, who was the dictator, and then the other was to oust Mohamed Morsi, who was democratically elected. There were allegations that the election was stolen, but they had all bad options anyway, so they went for Mohamed Morsi, who was the head of the Muslim Brotherhood, to run the country. He kind of did a power grab at one point. Then there was another revolution, a mini-revolution that ousted him. Well, now the Egyptian military has basically taken control of the country, and they are no better than the previous two guys. In fact, they might even be worse. Okay, so today we learned that an Egyptian court sentenced Muslim Brotherhood leader Mohammed Badi and 682 people to death. Now, I'll get to the reasons in a second, but just know that the same court also found 529 people guilty and to be sentenced to death in March, and they reversed 492 of those and made it life in prison instead because of an international outcry. So last time the sentences were for supposed members of the Muslim Brotherhood. Now look, I'm no fan of Islam, I'm no fan of the Muslim Brotherhood, I hate all religion. But basically what they did was say, oh, you're part of that organization, we're going to put you on trial. Wait, what? How does that make sense? Well, if you know the history of Egypt, you find that Hosni Mubarak actually banned the Muslim Brotherhood, and they were underground throughout his entire reign. Then when Morsi was in there, he was the head of the Muslim Brotherhood, and he was elected, and they had power. And now, with the military, they're trying to push them underground, and they're trying to basically re-ban them. In fact, they did re-ban them. So now it's just, oh, you're affiliated with them? Sorry, we're going to put you on trial, and we might sentence you to death. So that's insanity, man. I'm no fan of the Muslim Brotherhood, but that's craziness because now you're genuinely persecuting them. Whereas before they would have had the fake victim complex, like, oh, how dare people not agree with our every political position. But now you're legitimately making them victims and you're persecuting them. Now this time it's even worse. Quote, the crackdown has extended to secular-leaning dissidents who supported Morsi's overthrow but have since turned on the army-installed regime. So do you get what that means? This is really important. They're basically capturing people and having trials if they disagree with the military government. This is exactly the fear that we all had from the beginning. That, oh man, okay, so we have a revolution, it's fine as long as there's an election and there's a leader that's put into place, and then you can continue to have some sort of a democracy functioning. But what happened is the transitionary period, we got stuck in there. You know, the first transition worked fine and Morsi was elected. Then when he was overthrown, now the military's like, fuck it, we'll just stay in control. You also have, what's his name? Sisi, I believe it is, General Sisi. I think he's running to be the head now and he'll just fucking steal the election. So you just have a military dictatorship that's just as bad as the other two guys were and maybe even worse because they're just flat out throwing people in jail and giving them the death penalty for just being dissidents, for saying, you know what, we disagree with this government. Man, that is insane. A court banned the April 6 youth movement that spearheaded the 2011 revolt, which toppled Mubarak, following a complaint accusing it of defaming Egypt and colluding with foreign parties. So for those of you who don't know what that means, it's just bullshit charges that they hurl at them and say, oh, you're defaming Egypt, so you're going to die. In other words, you disagree with the military leaders now, so we're going to kill you. Look, this is a problem, man. You know, Egypt has basically become the devil that it was trying to avoid. Everything that these military leaders are trying to do to stop, you know, people from protesting and going out on the street and trying to do political and social reform, everything that they're doing is exactly the thing that Morsi was guilty of, exactly the thing that Mubarak was guilty of. It's just a different person that's bringing the oppression, a different group that's bringing the oppression, and it's no better, whether it's military-backed, Muslim Brotherhood-backed, or dictatorship-backed. It's all bad because you're cracking down on freedom and killing people and taking away rights either way. See, here's my message to the military and Sisi. You're not better by definition. You don't get a pass because you're not Morsi and you're not Mubarak. Your actions are just as bad as theirs were. So what we're seeing in Egypt right now is, you know, it's really historic in how big of a flop and how big of a failure it's been since Mubarak's been ousted. I'm not saying Mubarak should have stayed in there. I'm not saying Morsi should have stayed in there. But as of right now, we're kind of in the worst situation that we could have ever imagined Egypt to be in. It was like a revolution that doesn't have a happy ending, at least not right now, and it looks like there's no way that they can get their shit back together with how divided the country is and how terrible the governing situation is. So I don't know what the solution is. I don't know what the answer is, but the facts are quite damning, and they've just traded one tyrant for another tyrant, and now another tyrant.